Order at 6:02 p.m. 6:02 p.m. Budget and appropriations, please. From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I entertain a motion to approve the mayor's request to transfer $64,084.58 from account 112410000-578360, citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to the following accounts to fund the accrued payroll for wages earned through June 30th. $935.20 to account 1111000-511000 council salary. $5,552.77 to account 1131000-511000 budget and appropriation salary. $2,275. Sorry, I have pneumonia, so I'm trying to go through this. To account 113510000-511000 auditor salary and wages. $3,560.62 to account 114110000-511000 assessor salary. $3,809.12 to account 114510000 511000 treasurer salary. $1,961.17 to account 114610000-511000 collector salary. $5,814.96 to account 115210000-511000 personnel salary. $3,455.63 to account 116110000-511000 clerk salary. $1,613.76 to account 116210000-511000 election salary. $4,919.09 to account 117510000-511000 planning and land use salary. $1,832 to account 129210000-511000 animal control salary. $6,048.98 to account 1500000-511000 health salary. $4,869.72 to account 154110000-511000 council on aging salary and wages. $1,738.94 to account 154310000-511000 veteran salary. $12,697.56 to account 1610100-5100 library salary.
Second.
Thank you. This is for the 53rd pay week that we've done every year. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, motion passes. And our last business is I entertain a motion that the City of Attleboro accept Chapter 329, the Acts of 1987, which amended Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 32, so that in case of the school budget, the municipal council, the recommendation of the school committee, made by 2/3 vote to increase the total amount appropriated for the support of the schools over that requested by the mayor. And provided that further, that no such increase shall be voted if it would render the total annual budget in excess of the property tax limitations set forth in section 21C of chapter 59.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, and I just had brought this out for discussion. I've gotten some calls from other counselors, and I can't talk that much, so I'm just gonna open the floor to the committee, and then just remember to raise your hand to be called upon first. Mr. Blair?
Thank you, Shannon. Sorry you're not feeling well. In my opinion, this motion hasn't been vented enough, and it's more or less a scare tactic. I don't believe at this point in time that it should be brought out even. It's trying to grab power that's not necessary yet. I don't think that we need to do it. I think the administration is working with the school committee. They met over the weekend. If you read in the Attleboro Sun, they did come up with a concession to shift some money. And from reading the paper, I understand this will be an ongoing thing, that they intend to share any new growth with the school department, which I think is a good compromise at this point. Also, I think there's been a lot of misinformation out. I've got letters, calls, that some of these people actually believe that the 4th of July parade comes out of the city side. They believe the fireworks comes out of the city side. Our streets being repaired is out of the city side budget. That money comes from, the streets comes from chapter 90. The 4th of July fireworks, and we all work on that to get donations in order to get that on the, for the city to enjoy and the constituents. It's just not the right time to jam this down somebody's throat at this point, and to take powers away from an administration that I believe is doing a good job. City's in good shape. I honestly believe, in conversation with the mayor, that he's trying due diligence to get as much money over to the school department as possible. I will not sacrifice public safety in this city, because we have elderly people, we have responsibilities to have those police cruisers out on the road, to have those firemen ready to go, and the ambulances ready to go. I don't think we should be picking and choosing what calls we make or when we make it. We're short-staffed as it is throughout the city. I don't know of a single department that isn't in need of some extra help. And they were flatlined. Their budgets were hashed over long before we'll see it. And I don't think it's the right time. Maybe next year, when we get time to vent this particular law and hash it over, see what it's about, be more knowledgeable about it, then maybe I could be swayed. But at this point, being a committee member, I would not vote it out of committee.
Delicio, Councilor Delicio?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the parents who sent me letters over the last few weeks. I've received about 25 to 30. I haven't had an opportunity to respond as of yet, really given the sheer volume of the letters. I want to thank those who've stopped me on the streets or have called me. I think this is such an important issue to the city that we need to stop pointing fingers. We need to stop placing blame. We need to focus on the students and level set facts and expectations. As Councilor Blair said, there's been a lot of misinformation out there, and we need to work together, and that's the school committee, the school department, the administration, the council, the parents, every resident who's attached in this situation. We need to find a suitable solution, not just for this year, but we need to find one going forward. And the solution we find, it has to be one that's sustainable. In 2013, my wife and I put my son into Willett for various number of reasons. It's been the best decision we've made for him. We love Willett. We love Mr. Caton, Mrs. Tolbert, his second grade teacher, Mrs. Slater, his third grade teacher, and his current teacher, Miss Champlin. So when I read letters saying that the council doesn't care about the students, it's really nothing further from the truth. I know I'm not the only one here who has a child in the schools or have had children go through the schools. The thought of layoffs to teachers, to cops, to firefighters, to anyone, it breaks my heart. And we have to make sure that layoffs are the last option. Our children need us to work together to find something that's a suitable solution to ensure we can continue to grow the school system as well as grow the city. That being said, I feel as though we have to look at every situation for what it's worth, and we have to look at every possible scenario with every possible solution. We can't rush it. There aren't going to be any easy answers. I was quite encouraged to see the joint letter from the mayor, the school committee chair, Steve Withers, and Superintendent-elect Sawyer. I think it sent a strong message that the city wants to work with the schools, and that half of the revenue from the levy was allocated to the schools. It's not going to solve everything, but it's a start to a conversation that we're looking for answers. We're looking at every single option we have. There are a lot of people who are upset because communities like Foxborough and Mansfield give more money to their schools annually, but that's apples to oranges. It's important to note they have that ability. They have a luxury of having home values that are 145% higher than Attleboro's, give or take, which means they can generate more tax revenue than Attleboro is able to. They have less households by 50%, again, give or take, of what Attleboro has, which requires less public services than Attleboro. Attleboro simply can't give that much that these communities give. We have to live in the parameters we have. We have to do more with less. Those are the things we can't control, but now I want to look at the things we can control. I've spent time with 4 or 5 members of the school committee trying to unmuddy the waters, trying to see what can be done, talking about solutions. I co-sponsored with 4 of my colleagues here tonight the resolution we signed prior to council tonight that sends a message to the governor that the process for Chapter 70, which funds the schools, is broken. Our future is too important not to readdress this. I was talking with our state delegation about the help and support Attleboro needs from them on this issue. I've requested last week to President Cook that we have a joint meeting with the school committee and go through and get everything on the table so we can walk out of there knowing where they stand. They know where we stand. We walk out of there with a unified plan and a unified message. To me, it's interesting we're talking about budget cuts, but we've yet to see one city department or the school budget yet. However, until we're able to see those budgets, we can't possibly make educated suggestions on where to cut. It's not that simple. It's not just saying, let's cut budgets. What are the lasting effects of just cutting the budgets? We still have 8 weeks until fiscal 17 starts, and that gives us 8 weeks to continue to negotiate and work together. We all need to get on the same page and operate with all of our cards on the table. We talk about transparency as elected officials. It's one of the buzzwords we hear ad nauseum. But there's no important time than now for everyone to come to the table, operate in full transparency. The finger pointing has to stop. We need to start working together as one city and one Attleboro. As far as the piece of business in front of us tonight, I agree, it needs to come to the full council. But we need to make sure we're looking at this holistically. This is too important of an issue to rush through to the full council without giving it the proper attention it needs. I think we have to do the same with every single solution that's suggested to help ease the budgetary concerns we all have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I think I want to make it really clear what we're talking about tonight, because I hear maybe some misunderstandings. So tonight, the bill before us is to accept a portion of state law. That portion of the state law would give the city council some more financial authorities if we choose to enact it. But nothing we're doing tonight would cut a budget or affect a budget or affect any of these nice department heads out here. It would give us another tool in our toolbox. So when I hear things like we're going to decimate, public safety, well, that's absolutely not true. This has nothing to do with cutting budgets. In fact, it's what Mr. Delisio said. We don't have a budget yet. So there's no talk of cutting one. That's kind of an impossibility. All this would do if we accepted it is it would give us a tool in the toolbox. If we wanted to, we could fund education more. What would that take later? That would take another vote. So that's certainly not what we're voting on tonight. And it would also take 2/3 of the city council and 2/3 of the school committee. So I think it's really clear that we realize what we're discussing tonight is just accepting a state law. We're certainly not talking about cutting public safety budgets. We're not talking about cutting department budgets. None of that's happening. There are many steps that we'd have to take to enact this state law, which we're just accepting. I think it would be really foolish as the city council to look at one another and say, you know what? I want to have less power. I want less influence to make this city better. I want to have as few tools as possible that I can use when I'm presented with a budget. It just doesn't make sense. We should have as many options as possible in our toolbox, and we'll choose to use them if and when we find them necessary. For us right now to say, this is cutting the fire department, and this is cutting the police department, and this is crazy. Well, that's patently false and not true, and I'd like to dispel that rumor. I'd ask my counselors to bring it forward to a vote for the full council and to let us accept this state law. The time for these debates, which I'm hearing, is in the future if 2/3 of the council chooses to use the state law, which we've accepted. So right now we're just talking about putting another tool in our toolbox, and I'd ask the committee members to vote it out of committee, and I'd ask the full council to please consider it thoughtfully. Thank you.
Councilor Hall?
Thank you. You know, I dwell on these things over and over again. As you know, I've researched it. I did a lot of my own research. I have gone back and forth. And before I make a decision, I really do think about a lot. And I'm going to tell you, I finally got to the point where I wrote it down. And I have a page here, 1 page of the pros. And unfortunately, I now have 4 pages of my concerns. So as I said, I don't make these decisions without a lot of forethought. One of my major concerns is the reason why this was brought in the first place and why there was limitations put on the law itself. I came to the conclusion, and again, I think differently than other people, that this particular law was enacted to be used in a very, very grave situation, and not just to be put in as a tool, but a grave situation. Because to me, what it does is it gives an organization as ourselves to give ourselves our own powers, which to me is fundamentally not what the people of Attleboro voted for. The people of Attleboro cast their vote for the authorities that they knew that the mayor had. Who do we have the right to change that and to give that right to ourselves? There's just something fundamentally from a governance standpoint wrong with that. So I see some very much concerns with that. I see that the way things work, there's a lot of checks and balances that go along with it. So again, my issues have to do with more of the governance and sort of a slippery slope that if we're allowed to start changing the rules as we go along, I think that's a problem. I just think that's a problem. And from somebody that's been working in the government before and been in the military, I think that's a problem. I also believe that this can be used at any time, and what I'm reading is that this is a quick action response. It doesn't have to be used now. So let's just say that grave situation did come about. There is language in here that says that it could be used at any time, and then could be enacted in the next month afterwards. I would think that if we knew there was a problem way ahead of time, we'd have plenty of time to enact this. It doesn't have to be written down on a book anywhere. It's always available to us. So I have a lot of concerns about where this came from, why it was. I even consulted with another city and asked them what their thoughts were about that, and the individual said that, again, they've had the same concerns that I had, was that with the governance and that the people have already spoken. So, I think that sort of at the, I would definitely be interested to know more about it. I would like to know the intent. What I guess I am getting at is I would like to know, if anybody can answer for me, what the intent of this law was in the first place, what it was trying to remedy. Because I have come to my own conclusions as to what I think it was trying to remedy, and for that particular reason, I would not feel comfortable bringing this forward at this time.
So you want it to stay in committee?
I would like to see it stay in committee and be fleshed out some more, yes. If I had to vote on it now, I wouldn't be voting in a positive way. I just have too many questions.
Heather?
Thank you, Chairman Hegney, I appreciate it. So this is a highly emotional issue, where it really shouldn't be. Currently, it is a matter in front of us that we have the ability to accept this. That's the only area that we're at right now. I will respectfully, along with Mr. Delisio, I've received multiple emails, multiple letters in the mail, and that's a message from the constituency. Why they elected us to begin with may have changed, and we need to be continually listening to them on a regular basis. You should have concerns. We have concerns. We know as a council how important these decisions are. And I can't help but think that a $4 million deficit for a level funded school system is not a grave situation. That means if we need an extra $4 million just to keep things the way they are, we have a big problem. And this is something that we have I've been here for 2.5 years. I've seen this coming down the pike. Long before I was even a city councilor, I knew that this was happening. I agree with Vice President Denley. This is a tool that we need to have. I don't think we should wait. This is not a grab for power. It is at the state level, the governor issues or makes a recommendation for a budget. This year, he recommended $20 over net school spending per pupil. The legislative body that represents us came back and said, thanks, Governor, that's not good enough. We're going to recommend $55 per pupil over net school spending. Because why? Because the governor's budget isn't the governor's budget. It's our budget. Our representatives are out there representing us. And similarly can be said for here in the council floor, is that it's not the mayor's budget. It's your budget. It's the people sitting in this audience. It's the department heads. It's everybody in the city's budget. And we were elected to manage that. That's why department heads come down and they defend their budget, and we have the ability to take stuff away. It was interesting to me, the reason behind this, to bring this forward, is that we are at a grave situation. Why not have it? I would rather have this in the toolbox and not use it, because that's an option that we have. If we accept this and next week, Steve Withers makes a recommendation, Councilor Parika, we need $2 million, we do not have to agree to that. And anyone who's been telling anybody else that we're looking to fully fund the schools at $10 million and that we're going to come in and wipe out departments and close the library and do things like that, that's just categorically incorrect. And I'm sitting here as a city councilor listening to the people that elected me. I walk every morning, I'm on the phone. Everybody's calling me and sending me letters. That's our job on this council, to listen to the people that put us here. I don't work for the mayor, I work for you guys. And we should all know that. And I find it impossible to have counselors not recognize that though something may have been what got you elected, and there's a reason why people are there, those attitudes can change. And we need to listen to the people that are sitting out here and that are making those phone calls. I'm not trying to take power away from the mayor. I'm not. It's there for us to have. It is a tool. The reason why I liked this piece of business, because it's a tool to make sure that the mayor comes down and has a seat at the table, and that the school committee and the administration of the schools comes and sits at the table. The last thing that I have any interest in doing is meddling in department heads' budgets. But I'm certainly a pretty darn good mom, and this feels like a parenting method for the department heads. It makes the city council neutral, and they know that they need to send down a budget that we can accept. And we need them to come to the table and to agree. Then they don't have to come and say, hey guys, we need an extra $1 million, because nobody would negotiate. I'm grateful for the extra $800,000 that came out of the administration this weekend. I couldn't be more thrilled. It's not going to stop layoffs. It's certainly not going to stop cuts. It's certainly not going to keep people from not having to pay for buses. And now that my son's a 3-sport player, I don't even know. I'm going to have to pick up a 4th job to be able to pay for the sporting fees. That's all, and that's going to happen regardless of whether or not we pass this and accept this. So yes, I want it voted out of committee. No, I don't want what's coming down the pike. But we've all sat here, we've all seen it, we all know it's coming, and we need to figure out how to fix it. Thank you.
Okay. So I have a question. is where are you prepared to cut the 1, 2, 3, 4? You're saying.
I don't have to make that
Okay,
decision
okay,
yet because we
I'm-
haven't even accepted
Okay,
the
I still
beginning
have
part
the
of it.
floor, though, but my question is if you support or don't support, don't vote, vote, for everybody holistically to think, is where are we gonna cut? We don't have a budget yet, but yes, we do. Our fiscal year 2016 is our budget. We're being level funded or cutting. So right now, I see department heads, I see policemen, firemen, and I see teachers. I see parents, and we have a group of scouts here. And I know we're saying, let's add. Where are we taking it from? Where are we cutting? And that's, and you say we don't have a budget, and Councilwoman, you said that also, but to be even, we have a budget. It's basically our fiscal year 16 budget, because we are either level funding or keeping everything the same to go over to the fiscal 17. So I guess to the same thing as you're talking about adding to the school, where are you going to cut? And I think the department heads here also should know where you're going to cut in their departments. And the parents should know, well, if you're gonna add, where are you taking away? Public safety, the senior center, where are we cutting?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to reference what I said previously. That's not what we're doing. That would take a whole second vote. That would be a completely different action and have to be done by a recommendation first to the school committee. So I'd ask them. And then they would recommend it to us. And it would take 2/3 of those sitting around this horseshoe. That's not what we're doing tonight. So talk of cutting is many, many steps away and doesn't even start with this legislative body. It starts with a different legislative body. So I would ask the legislative body who's in control of that. That's not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about putting a tool in place that we can use in a dire financial situation. I feel like this might be a dire financial situation. I don't know. I have not seen a budget. So I can just say I haven't seen a budget. I don't know that the budgets are level funded, seeing as how $800,000 was just able to move 3 days ago. So I don't know what's in the budget. I'd love to see the budget, and then we can all contemplate it. And if the school committee decides to bring forward a motion to us, we can then contemplate what they bring forward next. But we're not the moving party in that. So we don't get to say, oh, I want to cut here, I'd like to cut there, I want to cut there. The school committee makes a 2/3 motion and brings over a budget to us.
Correct.
And that's how it would start. So it's inappropriate for us to say, 1, because that's not what we're voting on, 2, because we don't know the budget, and 3, we don't even have the power to start that process. So I would say it's a moot point.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying, but then we also have another counselor saying we have to add fees, this are gonna go up. So it kinda has a correlation there, is if you're gonna add, where are you gonna cut? Where is the money coming from? We only have one piece of pie. So that is the only thing. And I saw a hand over here. Peter, did you have a hand, Sarah? Cooper?
Sarah, you can go.
Okay. So first of all, for everybody that's here, and a lot of you in the audience, I know, I've known for a really long time, I'm really sad that anybody here might think that we're choosing schools over any one of these departments, because that is just not so. Every one of you work really hard, your departments work hard. We believe the school does too. Right now, the school is hurting. And this is not something that is new. It's been at least 15, maybe longer than that, years, that we know that the school is starting to have problems, and that we should have, all of us, and any resident in this city should probably be at fault that we didn't realize it sooner, that we didn't come forward, that people didn't do things. So this is not pitting one department or any of you against the school. I'm also suggesting that this came out once before in the city council, I want to say 86.
88.
Okay, 88. And Mayor Shang vetoed it. So even if we brought it out, we made some decisions because we passed it, our mayor can then veto it. So what is wrong with having this on the books as a possible option to either lend to the discussion, find a way that's appealing to everybody, that doesn't take from one place, but maybe takes from the entire city? That's what we are, aren't we? An entire city? Don't we want schools that provide our children, our grandchildren, that provided us with the best possible education? That's what we're asking for. I mean, I chair city property and claims, and I am telling you, I am embarrassed to tears that I have to approve somebody donating paper, reams of paper to the school. That's what your taxes pay for. Every one of you here, that's what your taxes pay for that. They should not have to be donated. That type of material should not be donated. Donations should come so kids can go on field trips, learn something outside of the school environment. We are in a grave situation with our schools. We are. And I am suggesting that this law is here because it's a law that's available to city councils who are elected by everybody in the ward and throughout the city. There's nothing wrong with that. Most of you here live in the city. You might work for the city too. You might have a business in the city. You have children, grandchildren in the city. Without good schools, what good is everything? So I'm just saying, this is a law that is available. We should do it. There's not a one of us here, I don't believe, that would pit one department against the other. We love you all. We think you all do a great job. But the bottom line is we have to find a way to get the schools back up to where they belong. And this might be an opportunity. I believe it's there. If for some reason down the road, if we did it and the mayor didn't like it, let him veto it. That's his job. But our job is to make sure that the schools in the city can move forward in a way that they should. Just like that we do it for all the rest of the departments. We fight for you, for your money, for your trucks, for the things that you need, for the library, for every one of you. We fight for you to give you the money. And I think that this is just one other option that's available for us to kind of support the school systems. And those are my comments. I will be voting for this.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Hegney. So what I think we ought to, your committee ought to consider, I'm not a member of that committee, but what I think you ought to consider is this. There are, we have not been presented the 17 budget, and I hear you say, look at 16. But then I hear Councilor Denley say, well, where'd the 800,000 come? And I think we know where it came from. It came from the increase in the levy fine. The budget's coming the 10th. That's what I learned tonight. The budget's going to be presented on May 10th. We could, May 10th is next Tuesday. We have committee meetings next Tuesday. Let's really analyze the facts next Tuesday in your committee when we have a budget. Maybe he's not coming down to present it, but that's when I was told the budget was available. May 10th. So let's look at that on May 10th when your committee will have a regularly scheduled committee meeting. You take that information and you analyze it. And it's at that time that you could start to talk about and think about where you might make some suggested adjustments. I didn't use the word cut because, surgeons cut. I think that we need to consider every option. This is certainly, in my opinion, one of them. Because we do have a problem. We've all said it. We all agree. But I think you could achieve the same thing if you did this on the 10th of May, and you'd have more information, some real information on that date to potentially sway those that are not in favor of this, to actually demonstrate the gravity of the situation with real numbers on the 10th. It just so happens that they coincide with one another, and I think it couldn't be staged any better to hold it till the 10th and vote it on the 10th in committee, vote it the 17th in front of the full council, and if you need it, it's in place on the 1st of June, and you do what you have to do from June 1st to the end of the month, and you make any adjustments or modifications that you need to once you get the request from the appropriate legislative body. And that concludes my comments.
Okay, and that's what I always do. And as I've said before, everybody has a voice, even if you're not on the council, and I've always said I
Well,
facilitate.
on the council, but not the committee.
I mean, the committee, I'm sorry, I have pneumonia, and I'm here because, last week I was sick too, and I was not, what's the word I'm looking for? Conveniently not here. As you can see, I have pneumonia, and I wanted to make sure I came in for the 53 pay week to call for a committee meeting tonight, and then I was called by the newspaper and said, are you gonna talk about this? I said, I will, yes, if we wanna talk about it, we'll talk about it. I give everybody an option to speak, okay? And that's why I said I open the floor to everybody. Counselor, Hall, did I see your hand?
Yes, I just wanna say, thank you, Councilor Cooper, for your comments, because I agree wholeheartedly. Having this discussion when we haven't even seen a budget and haven't had an opportunity to even look at that and look at some alternatives is very premature as far as I'm concerned. And with some of the concerns that I have, that's why I'm saying today, if you were to push me to the wall and say, vote this, I would have to say no, because I'm not comfortable with that for some of the same reasons that you just gave. So I want to thank you for commenting, as you did.
Counselor Conte?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I apologize for being late, I have another job.
We all have other jobs, well, some of us, but most of us.
I got here as quick as I could. I would like to direct my comments to the three members of the committee, Councilor Higney, Councilor Jackson, and Councilor Blair.
No,
Delicio, Councilor Higney, and Councilor Jackson.
no.
Blair.
You on the same council?
I'm on the same council, I just, a little
Since
confused.
January, Conte. It's been since
So
January.
Councilor Delicio and Councilor Blair and Councilor Higney, I think your decision to allow this to flow into the council for a full vote is very important. I think if you stifle this measure in committee, I may never forgive you. If, to the Boy Scouts who are here that may be confused by all this discussion, try to remember this, that politics, the gearworks of politics are lubricated by misinformation and misstatements. And it's how people try to push things to get their way. They bend the truth and they try to distract you from the real point at hand. And I hear a lot of that tonight. It's not an inappropriate
I've
message.
been in some lateral movement as a chairman. I have been letting some lateral movement. This is a committee meeting here. 11 people sitting here. We talk to each other, okay? And like I said, I always kind of let some free movement going. But let's just talk about the motion in front of us. As
So
every other
the motion
counselor
in front
before
of
you
us,
has.
the motion in front of us has nothing to do with a lot of discussions going on, Madam Chairman. And this is the first time that you've stifled the conversation and you're late.
No, I just said I've letting it go, but like other counselors next to us seriously. So I've seen other people. So I just want to keep it on track. Okay.
So there are several important things about this measure that I would have supported if I had the opportunity to co-sponsor it. But I wasn't given the opportunity to co-sponsor it because of the rules and procedures of the council, which I don't agree with. This measure changes the way the city operates so that rather than a single body having full control, we, under the guidance of the state legislature, would add 11 more people into the process. So that there would be more bodies looking to find ways and working together to solve the problems that are at hand. How is that not good? I see this measure allowed by the state legislature as a more democratic process. One in which we, who are elected by the electorate, we don't work for the mayor. He's not our boss. Our boss are the people who vote. The people who vote have been contacting me all week, by email, by letters, by phone calls. Even family Sunday dinners are obsessed with this subject. And I think that points more to the fact that this needs to go into full council, so that the full council can take a weight on the measure and add to the brain power to solve the problem, which is monstrous. You know, in the past, the budget discussions have been very contentious, and I think that this year is probably gonna be the worst. And you know that I haven't voted for the budget very frequently in my tenure as a city councilor for 6 years. In fact, I think I voted against the budget more than I voted for the budget. Because I haven't felt that there's been full consideration, and this measure brings fuller consideration into the decision-making process. I'm all for this. And I don't consider myself, as a city council, I don't consider myself a deputy mayor. I consider myself a representative of the people who elected me. There's an important difference there. And for now, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Disley.
I guess I just have a couple questions, because Mark, I agree with what you're saying, and I actually said that earlier, that I think this does need to come out in front of the full council. My question becomes, if we're talking about there's no immediate need to enact this right now, if we don't need to put this, this is for future, this is a future tool, then what is the harm in fully investigating it? I don't understand that. To sit here and sit, this is all about finger pointing and name calling. And to sit here and say, I'm not a deputy mayor. I don't work for the mayor. None of us work for the mayor. Let's get that clear. Enough. We work for the residents of the city. And I hate to tell you guys, it's not just the people who vote, it's the residents of the city. And those residents are the kids that are in school too. So why is an extra week a bad thing at this point? We have 8 weeks left in the fiscal year, 8 weeks to still come together to find something. Why, if there's nothing that's imminent, if there aren't any suggestions, what's the harm in fully vetting this and figuring out what the best solution is? For someone who preaches fresh air and sunlight, I think it's pretty interesting the comments that you make from time to time, Mr. Conti. No one has mentioned stifling.
Madam Chair, I
As a
think that's a
matter of
direct
fact,
attack, and I take objection to that.
He takes objections to that. Can you please
Withdrawn.
refrain?
we need to ensure that everything's getting the right amount of attention. This isn't just something that we should just put in and wait. Councilor Cooper brings up a good point. We have the budget. What is the difference between now doing it today and doing it this time next week? For it to come to a full vote 2 weeks from tonight. We have to find a solution, and we have to look at every single option in front of us, which includes this one. To sit here and say that there's no rush for it, but it's just nice to have in the toolbox, but we got to vote it out tonight, it seems disingenuous with all due respect. I think there's a lot that goes into it. This isn't just a simple yes or no situation. This has legitimate impacts on the future budgets of the city for both the schools and the city. And as a matter of fact, instead of talking about not voting for a budget, well, if we don't pass the budget, then the schools have to operate on fiscal 16's budget, which is only going to make this problem worse. So when we talk about misinformation and we talk about this stuff, let's start calling to light some of this stuff. Not voting for a budget might make for a great headline in George's article, but in the reality of it, it puts people at a disadvantage. And it puts the situation where the schools are going to be worse off than they are now if we don't come to some conclusion and some consensus working on this together. The future is too important. And the name calling and the finger pointing has to stop. It's not getting us anywhere. It's too important. I'm sorry.
Thank you, and I apologize, Council Conte, if I didn't react quick enough. Okay. Councilor Blair?
Thank you, Mr. Delicio, for your comment. People sit there and say this isn't about cuts. But if that wasn't in the back of somebody's mind, that you had to make cuts to get the money over to the school department, and this is an avenue to do it, or to bring it out, they're lying to themselves. We have a level funded budget. I think we all know that. If you've talked to a department head, for instance, in your committee, that department's in, they've already been through a budget conference or whatever. And they've been told it's level funded, or there's been some cuts. So, we come up with $1.8 million, am I wrong with that figure? Extra million plus the 800,000. I think the administration's working as hard as he can and doing due diligence to get some money over there. I don't think any of us want to see the school department hurt. But we all live within our budgets, whether it be here or at home. So we have to take a hard look at that. I've tried to get, in the past, to get a budget out of the school committee so you could read it. I think some of us were on the council, we actually went to a school committee meeting. There was no transparency in sunlight, believe me. There was none. So I think the administration is doing due diligence and trying to get some money over it. And it is $1.8 million. And I think there's some facts out there that's been vetted to try to pit our children against us, or us against our children, or the school department. And that's not true. I don't think there's a soul on this council that if you had it, you'd give it. But we don't have an awful lot to give. So I think another couple weeks to see. But it all comes down to this. This isn't being enacted or tried to be enacted for any other reason but to cut so it can come over. Let's work together, as Jay said. See if we can come up with something. And the people out there, get on the phone.
Peter.
Write your letters to where it counts.
Peter, we already said let's not talk to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. But if it was me, I would get on the phone, talk to the people that have some control. We don't have that control.
I
I'm
actually
sorry.
like Counselor Cooper's comment instead of calling them cuts, modifications.
I like that.
And what else, Cooper, did you say? Modifications?
I don't remember.
Instead of cuts.
Flabbergasted.
Yes, thank you. You know, I appreciate everything that's being said, and I do have to say this again because I'm a big person on governance, okay? And I have to say in a very positive way, the 4 individuals that got together already and put out a joint statement are the people that we elected to do this. And I commend them for what they have done. And I think that those are the people, very, very difficult. We're talking about the superintendent and the chairman of the school department, school committee, and the mayor. And who else am I forgetting? But
It's just 3.
thank you, 3. You know, those are the people that have been felt, as you would, that this was their duty to do this, and that's what they were elected to do. And that's where I guess I have some difficulties with. I would like to support those folks and continue to work with those folks in the duties that we have voted them in to do, and not change that up until we, like I said, until we see that there's something so totally wrong. We have to support the people that are in those positions. Those people are doing a very, very difficult job. And I, for one, do not feel at this point in time that they have done anything so grossly incompetent that I want to turn around and take those authorities away from them at this point in time. So again, that is my, and I also want to say that, you know, we are all here. I'm not here just to represent a particular group. I'm here to represent the best I can all the residents of Attleboro, not just the people that are sitting here in this room. The ones that are watching from home, and the ones that may have different thoughts than what we have here, and different priorities than what we have here. Everybody's got different priorities. I'm here to represent all of those people, not just the people that are sitting here. And I will do my absolutely very, very best, because that's what I feel that I got voted here to do. So I just want to make that clear. I care about, you know, I try to do the best I can for everybody that we can do here and not taking one group over the other. And I think it's very dangerous if we do start to say that one group is more important than another group. And that's exactly what we're saying here. And I'm gonna tell you, I had to look up the definition of priority because I got it in a letter so many times. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what that definition is. It says to arrange a list or group of things in order of priority or importance. The legal definition is the right to be first or ahead of the rights or claims of others. That's what priority means, and I think that nobody is asking to have themselves put ahead of anybody else in this city. So I just want to make that clear, because that's what I'm reading in my letters, and I just want to make sure that, I think what you're trying to say is you want some focus being put, a little bit more focus being put on you. That I can understand, but don't ask me to reprioritize you over the other citizens and the other residents of the city of Attleboro. That's it.
Councilor Parika?
Thank you. I just have to respond to that. We realign priorities all the time. It's a constant rotation. So to say that, I don't think anyone, as Councilor Reynolds said, we are not here to pit people against one another or pit departments against one another. Collaboratively, we need to figure out a way to solve this problem. I can't help but think that that spirit of collaboration between the administration of the city and the administration at the school department may have been encouraged by this new business. I can't help but think that might have been a moving forward for that. In addition to that, I find it really interesting that we're sitting at, well, we have the budget, we don't have the budget, we don't know what the numbers are. But the information that we're getting down from the administration is that there's $2 million shortfall city side, that's $4 million shortfall on the school side. So we can have an idea of where we need to realign our priorities. What I struggle with is that I know, and through multiple conversations with school committee members and other individuals in the administration, that the conversation has been, there is no money. Don't ask for more money, there is no money. And then all of a sudden, we have a 48-hour, social media campaign, and we have $800,000 that came out of where? So, I think that the pressure that has been applied to the administration on this side produced extra funding. And again, I'll state it's awesome, and I'm happy for it, and I'm grateful for it, but it doesn't come close to enough. And so we realign our priorities all the time. In my home, I have a priority. Let's pay this, let's pay that, but then the tires go on the car, and I have to take the priority for that and move that up front. So to sit there and say that, I appreciate the reading of a definition, but we change our priorities every day, especially when we're talking about like the capital improvements program and things like that. We might have an urgent purchase that needs to be made, but then a boiler blows, and we have to instead of buying a new tractor, we're going to buy, a new boiler. So it's hard to come in and have a hard line on what our priorities are and not say that those are going to change on a regular basis. Thank you.
Councilor Jackson?
Thank you, Councilor Hegney. First of all, it's nice to see so many people here at City Hall, especially having students and the scouts here this evening, parents. Sometimes you don't get a chance to pay attention to everything that's going on in City Hall, but when it comes to your family, of course, you're right on it. That's how it has always been. I remember years ago when I was on the city council, it was a nightmare one night, but it was a good nightmare in the end, and it was all about the budget. Excuse me. And I'm just recalling like a couple months ago when Chief Hegney was here before us, and I believe the 11 of us agreed to promote some police officers, and we did that unanimously, the 11 of us. I believe all of us voted in favor of it. Back then, 2 months ago, if we had known it was going to be this bad, would we have supported those promotions? I don't know. But all I know is that we don't have a budget yet, but we're getting emails from department heads, or you stop into an office and one of the department head just says, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Because they're working on their budgets right now, and they're looking at it and they're saying, wow. And I'm sure it's going to be even worse now that $800,000 has left the administration side. I'm glad it did. I'm glad that the mayor found it, because we all love our schools. We all are in favor of our students. We're all, 11 of us, are in favor of the schools and helping the schools as much as we can. My point is, even though we don't, bless you, even though we don't have budgets, we are getting these emails from department heads, and they're telling us that they've looked at their budgets, and we all received one today, that be advised a reduction in police service is imminent beginning July 1st. That's scary. So I think as we discuss all of this evening, and we talk about the schools, and we talk about the different departments and all the troubles that they're gonna have as well, maybe this isn't the time right now to bring this forward. Maybe we do wait a week, like Counselor Cooper said, and get more input and see where we're gonna be at. Because, yes, the mayor found $800,000. But he's gonna have to, I'm sure now he's probably looking at how he's gonna break it out, take more from these department heads as well. So let's just see what kind of disarray we're in before we conclude that we do need to pass this legislation. So, thank you.
President Cook?
Thank you, Chairman Higney. First, I just want to thank the members of the public who have reached out to me, as well as my colleagues on the council, relative to this matter, both on all sides of the issue, both on those favoring more money for the schools and those who are concerned about the impact on potential on the other departments if this is passed. I do want to reinforce some of the comments that have been made about the need to work together. This problem is not going to be solved by pointing fingers at each other, having one department face off against another department, one legislative body against another legislative body at all. We really need to work together. And part of that involves, or behooves all of us, to make sure that we're dispelling a lot of the myths and the other things that are not true connected with this, right? To be told because we are not totally going to fund the schools that were anti-school, anti-kids, or whatever, is the same as saying that if we are not totally funding the fire department, we're anti-fire department, or we're anti-zoo, or we're anti-DPW, right? We know that a number of these other departments, citywide, every department across the board that gets city money, we know for a long time, have been hurt. There have been positions that have not been filled for years. Right? We're going to be getting the budget in the next couple of weeks. For those of you who've been through it in the past, you know that there are line items that there's absolutely no money in. And yet if you were to go back to the time that Councilor Jackson mentioned when she was on, not too many years ago, back in the early part of the 21st century, the end of the, these items had money in them. It's been cut out through the years because of the budget process we have. As you all know, we get a lot of unfunded mandates, which I've been railing against since my first day in office. I'm going to do it to my last day in office, that come down from the state or the federal government, and we have to implement them, period. We have no choice in the matter. We need to come up with the money for that. We hear that the state wants the local communities to take greater responsibility, for the school system. Fine. If that's the way they want it, we can work that out. But that's also going to mean a commitment on the part of the state and the federal government to stop sending down these mandates, be it for education, for environmental, public safety, you name it. And I think at the same time, we have to look at what type of a city do we want, from schools to fire to zoos to DPW, and come up with how we're going to fund these. And in some cases, it means, thinking outside of the box and redoing, the past approach. Maybe some of the positions are no longer needed in, certain areas. Maybe certain tasks that we're charged with, we really don't need. I think if this particular item had been brought up at another time, and not when we knew that there was the budget was coming and that we were hearing about the shortfalls, I don't think we'd have such a huge turnout here tonight. I don't think we would be going through a lot of the other procedure that we're going through. And again, if this came up last July, first meeting of the fiscal year, plenty of time to look at it, I don't think it would have had the same impact. So I have to think, this law has been on the books since 1987. And that came in the within the decade of Prop 2.5. Some people here, especially the scouts, they have no idea probably what I'm talking about. They weren't even born. I'm not even sure if their parents were born when that happened, come to think of it. Right. But that was a way to limit the spending that was getting way out of whack across the state. And it's amazing that it actually passed, and there are ways to deal with local communities through overrides or whatever. 10 years later, they came in with a special act of 1987 to try, for cities only, to try to put more funding into the schools. One of my concerns with the passage of this, and I understand it being a tool, is I think it creates a false sense of hope. There's not a doubt in my mind that if this act is accepted, that we are going to receive a request to actually implement it. Not a doubt in my mind. And then the procedure will begin. And I know we talked about, well, we're not talking about budget cuts or modifications or anything else. No, we're not right now. The item before us is this act. But I think we have to look beyond that to the reality is that if this act is accepted, as I said, I firmly believe that we'll be requested to implement it. And at that point, this is not going to be a simple task of just saying, okay, we're going to take $2 million and we're going to move it over. We have to identify exactly where it's coming from to move it over there. And at that point, because we tax to the max of 2.5, the only place to take it is the city side, which is one of you just mentioned, is already, we're hearing, a $2 million shortfall. So we have shortfalls all the way around, right? The end result is, at the end of the day, when we vote this budget, which has to be done in the next 7-8 weeks, right? Nobody is going to be happy across the board. Nobody. I can tell you, when voting for the budget, and I respect Councilor Connie's position, we've agreed to disagree on things like this in the past, but I can honestly tell you, I've yet, for all the budgets I voted on, I've yet to vote on a budget where I agreed with every item that was in there. But however, it was necessary in order to not only keep government going, but it was a good working pot, and we move money around as the time goes by, so forth. The thing that really bothers me about this act, though, is I think that it creates an unfair playing field, because it only signals out one department in the city government, and that being the schools. Right? If we were allowed with the passage of an act, maybe this is something we need to talk to the state legislature about, where as a council we could take and move money to other departments that similarly were shortchanged in terms of budget, manpower, whatever happens to be, I'd be a little bit more apt to to see the merits of it. But that being said, I personally believe that on this particular act that is before us, this item that was brought in as a new business item, when it was brought in, and when I told Councilor Hagley that I was putting in her committee, I urged her to move fast on it. As far as the budget, none of us should be surprised, to hear that it's going to be a level-funded budget. The last several budgets have been level-funded. I really don't think that should be viewed in that particular way as we didn't know that, or we don't know how much money is coming. I think we need to, at this point, start to realize that, there will have to be modifications, cuts in certain areas in order to, to make this whole thing work in this particular, coming year. As I said, I asked Councilor Hagney to move on this when I put it in her committee. I personally feel that we should be voting inside a committee. We should be voting on this now. I understand, we will be getting the budget in the next couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to really change the picture that much. If you all, or some of those of you who were re-elected, you should still have your budget book from last year. If you look at that and compare it with the numbers that are coming down, it's not going to be greatly different at all. The only thing is, in a lot of the areas, it's going to be a lot less money than it was before. So I think we already know, that there's going to have to be certain adjustments as you go forward with the budget. But if we accept this act, and if we get that request, which is what I fully expect will happen, as I said, I feel that we're setting people up with a false sense of hope that indeed we're going to relieve these problems. We're not. All we're going to be doing is shifting it one side to the other. Because if not, I think we will see a cutback in city services across the board. And that's something I'm also hearing from people, not only in terms of, of the schools, but also city services, in terms of wanting to maintain the levels of fire protection, police protection, water service, the library service, et cetera, all the way down the line. So these are the issues that we have to, wrestle with. But not only we, but all of the other boards in the city that are dealing with this. We need to come together. We need to try to sit down and figure out how this has to go. Some of you know I've advocated when I was sitting in that chair, chairing that the finance committee years ago, that I thought that when we get to doing the budget, that the school committee, and I know the state laws would prevent this, but I often thought that the school committee and the city council should sit down together and create the budget, in conjunction with the administration across the board, and be able to, work out these things. Because sometimes I feel that it would be a lot better if we knew exactly, why certain things were in the budget. I feel that the examination that we do on the city side, I have those answers. I don't always feel that way on the school side, unfortunately. So again, my feeling is personally, as I said to the chair, move on this. I think at this point, gaining another week, 2 weeks, and we get to see the budget, it's not going to be that much different than we are. We're not going to be that much further along than we are right now, except we'll have a more definitive fact on the facts and figures at that point. But I think we just vote out a committee and move forward on it. Thank you.
Council Blair?
Chairman Hagney, could I make a suggestion if Mr. DeLisio withdraw his second and keep it in committee, as Mr. Cooper said, and let's further vet it. I mean, we could sit here till 12 o'clock tonight and make no headway. Till we actually, I know what the budget's gonna be. It's gonna be a lot less than it was last year, in most departments. You're not gonna see any increases. So why don't we at least wait till we see what the budget is? So if Mr. DeLisio would withdraw his second, we would leave it in committee till we have time to vet it.
Before I say whether or not I withdraw that, if I might, first of all, I'm very passionate about this. I'm a father, I'm a mentor to the youth commission, I'm a youth basketball coach. The future of this city depends on what goes on in these schools, and not just the Attleboro Public Schools, St. John's as well. I want to make it perfectly clear, the reason I'm asking for another week isn't to do with the budget. I think we all have a pretty solid idea of what, for the most part, this budget's going to look like. And it's grim. We get that. I can't, in good faith, vote on something that I don't have all the information on. There are concerns here raised that I want to get more information on. There's another community that has this enacted right now that I've been playing phone tag with. I think, and I've still yet to hear a convincing reason what 1 week is going to do. I'm going to withdraw my second, but it's not because of, with all due respect, it's not because of the budget. And President Cook, with all due respect, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with most of what you said.
Okay, when, are you withdrawing a second because we gotta stop comments, or are you saying I'm going to?
I'm going to,
Okay.
and I'll do that in one moment, thank you.
Thank you.
Is we vet everything, over vet. I hear from people all the time, they're like, really, it's zoo fees. You can't get this done since March? Here's something that's changing the landscape of potentially our children's future that we're all passionate about in one extra week? That's my concern. So that
And
being
before you
said,
withdraw your second, I just wanna say, that's why I said, is I'm one of 3, one of 11. And then, as Councilor Cooper said, it's definitely going to be, well, maybe not, maybe you both vote. It's like I said, there's 3 people, has to have 2 affirmatives to come out of committee. I'm hoping that the committee, you'll vet out any issues that you have. Maybe it's not the budget, maybe it's the law itself. I know I've been doing some research, and this law predates the funding requirements put in place by the Mass Ed Reform Act of 1993. And I know personally this firsthand, I was laid off as a teacher. Okay, I had a pink slip and I got laid. I was one of the teachers, Kate, when you were on the council then. Okay, so I know this is very serious. This hits home also for me. I have 2, a niece and a nephew, one with special needs in the school system. And I think we'll vet this, but only 1 week. Are
And
you
that's
all
what I would
saying that
ask.
you'll have your vetted issues out that you need in a week? Because I'm hoping to bring this out for vote before you withdraw your second. Is that what you're saying? Julie, that's what I heard from you. Can you get done what you need in a week? Whether you vote for it or not, when it comes out of committee, that's fine.
Right, I think a lot of, yes, what has been said here tonight has even helped me clarify things a little bit, you know, in terms of what people are saying, because, well, I'll reserve my comments for when it comes out.
Okay, and if I'm better by then, okay, I just wanted to make sure I was here, because last week I was sick too. So, had any more comments, questions? Okay,
I withdraw my second.
okay, your second is withdrawn. Thank you. I'd like to adjourn budget appropriation at 7:13 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Call the regular meeting of the municipal council for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016 to order. I'm going to ask that you please stand for the flag salute. Before I start that though, I did want to extend a warm welcome over here to my left, your right, if you're sitting in the audience, the troop number 35 and their Scoutmaster Kevin. 24? 25. 25. Scoutmaster is Kevin Began, and the assistant Scoutmaster is David Chase. They had contacted us a couple of weeks ago that they were going to be coming in. Most of them are working on either their citizenship or their community or similar badges. They're in the Boy Scouts. So I had knowing that they were coming in tonight, we actually had decided to set aside a certain area, so that's where they had the reserved seating. And I did ask the scouts, as I often do when we have scouts coming in here, to lead us in the flag salute. I believe there are two scouts that are going to be stepping forward to kind of lead us. I'm going to ask them to come into our semicircle. And I do want to welcome you all. And my understanding is that because some of them have homework, they are going to be leaving in about 20 minutes. And they assured me they're going to leave very quietly. But we do want to thank you. And again, I had extended not only a greeting to them, but also anything we can do to help them. We've had a number of through the years, Eagle Scout candidates who actually have come to the city council, to city departments, looking for assistance, and have been able to work on projects to earn their Eagle. So the Scouts are always welcome here. So again, whenever you gentlemen are ready to lead us.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are not in uniform, place your right hand over your heart. Scout salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. Nice job, guys. I was telling some of the scouts earlier and their leaders that there are some of us sitting in a semicircle who were one-time scouts, and how a lot of the lessons, or Girl Scouts, and the lessons that we learned through those experiences has carried through and become a part of our lives. So it's a very important program. This time I just remind everybody, especially my colleagues, to turn off or mute your cell phone or other electronic device because it does interfere with our broadcast to other parts of the city. I'm going to hold the minutes. I did want to announce that there are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. However, 2 weeks from tonight, there is a joint public hearing involving some of the rezoning of the land down along where the former DPW site was located. And that's in Ms. Hall's committee. So that'll be a joint meeting with the planning board and the city council in these chambers 2 weeks from tonight. At this time, we're going to move on to the reading of the mayor's communication.
May 3rd, 2016. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Recreation Dennis Walsh regarding the need for funds to purchase supplies for the remainder of fiscal year 2016, which requires a transfer within the Recreation Department budget. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $1,425 to account Recreation Supplies Rec Grounds from the following: $650 from Recreation Salaries and Wages, $775 from Recreation Longevity. Copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould, City Treasurer Laura Gignac, and Personnel Director Owen Bebo regarding the required fiscal 16 funding for health insurance, workers' compensation, and med tax. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $259,000 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the following: $75,000 to account personnel health insurance HMOs, $63,000 to account personnel workers' compensation, $5,000 to account personnel workers' compensation police, $84,000 to account personnel workers' compensation fire, and $32,000 to account treasurer med tax. Copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
As you may recall, your honorable body recently voted to fund new voting equipment. In order to use this equipment, a vote is required by your honorable body to discontinue using the AccuVote machines so that image cast tabulators may be used. Copies in your packets. In accordance with Article 2, Section 2-9B of the City Charter of the City of Attleboro, I respectfully request your honorable body to consider this an emergency measure, as this vote is needed by May 11, 2016, in order to use the ICP tabulators for the September 8, 2016 state primary.
Ordinances, elections, and legislative matters committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Planning and Development Gary Arazian requesting your honorable body waive all fees associated with the filing of local permit applications for the rehabilitation of the Dodgeville Pond Dam, as this is a municipal project. Copies in your packets.
Zoning and land use committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from the Director of Veteran Services, Ken Batcherter, requesting the support of your honorable body to pass a resolution to dedicate the Holden Street Bridge in honor of the late Major Thomas J. Deegan. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires a resolution so that they can take action to formally dedicate the bridge in his honor. Copies in your packets.
City property and claims committee, please.
I respectfully submit it for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Kent Richards, currently an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, to fill an unexpired term as a full member on the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire February 2018.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Paul Kennedy regarding the need for funds to reconstruct 2 biofilters located at the wastewater treatment plant. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $200,000 from account Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund biofilters construction. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Kathy D. Garapi, 1077 Pleasant Street, to fill an expired term on the Conservation Commission, term to expire February 2019. Copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Parks, Forestry, and Animal Control, Aurelio Almeida, regarding the needs for funds for animal control overtime for the remainder of fiscal year 2016, which requires a transfer from the Park and Forestry Department budget where excess funding exists. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $3,937.60 from account Park and Forestry salary and wages full-time to the following: $2,362.56 to account animal control callback overtime, $1,575.04 to account animal control holiday overtime. Copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Wastewater Paul Kennedy regarding funds needed to make repairs on a CAT bulldozer and front end loader. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $73,724.66 from account Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account Wastewater Enterprise Fund heavy equipment. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Acting Superintendent of Water Paul Kennedy regarding funds needed to pay the fourth quarter sewer bill for fiscal year 2016. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $57,500 to account Water Enterprise Fund sewer from the following: $23,000 from account Water Enterprise Fund gasoline, $2,000 from account Water Enterprise Fund diesel fuel, $23,000 from account Water Enterprise Fund chemicals, $6,500 from account water meters, and $3,000 from account water lab supplies. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding surplus equipment that the wastewater department would like to declare surplus, and hereby respectfully request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus for trade-in value and available for disposition. Copies in your packets. It's a 1985 Caterpillar D4E bulldozer with 9,295 hours, and its condition is fair to poor.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
As you may recall, the City of Attleboro signed a community compact agreement with Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito July 2nd, 2015. The Community Compact Program is designed to offer municipalities a stronger affiliation with the Commonwealth and state agencies as to identify best practices and implement or construct policy for more efficient and effective management. In concert with the Community Compact, I am pleased to announce that the city is in receipt of a grant in the amount of $16,500 to involve the Collins Center for Public Management at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, to conduct an evaluation of the city's problem-oriented policing (POP) program. There is no matching requirement for this grant. In accordance with this Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request that your honorable body approve expending of such funds in any future amendments. Copies in your packet.
Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee, please.
Sincerely, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you. And the other communications?
Yes, Mr. President, there are several. Number one, we have a certificate of vote from Lawrence Stamatis, the planning board clerk, certifying that the planning board voted in favor, 6 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, to recommend that the municipal council approve the petition of LVD Realty, Inc. to rezone property located at 67 Mechanic Street, more specifically, Assessors Lot Number 102C, containing a land area of approximately 8.85 acres on plat number 41 from industrial to general residence A.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
We also have a certificate of vote from Lawrence Stamatis, planning board clerk, certifying that the planning board voted in favor, 6 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, to recommend that the municipal council approve the petition of Normand and Juliana Morin, Charles and Mona Fatala, Pegasus Estates LLC, Bay Ridge Realty LLC, and Barone Realty Company to rezone property located at 144 Pleasant Street, 146 Pleasant Street, 150 Pleasant Street, 152 Pleasant Street, and 156 Pleasant Street. More specifically, assessors lots number 51, 51A, 51B, 52, 53, and 54, containing a land area of approximately 74,397 square feet on plat number 52 from general residence A to general business.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
We have several renewal applications for Hackney carriage driver's licenses. And tonight we have license applications from Andrew J. Madden, 216 Knight Avenue, Attleboro, Mass. Donald P. Blair, 1340 County Street, Attleboro, Mass. Karen E. Smith, 38 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass. Kathleen A. Cade Burks, 46 Emery Street, Attleboro, Mass. May I. Fitton, 14D South Avenue, Attleboro, Mass. Albert P. Bromley, 39 South Avenue, Attleboro, Mass. Jeffrey A. Hunt, 53 Emery Street, Attleboro, Mass.
License Committee, please.
We have an application for a new 2016 Hawkers and Peddlers license from Shauna O'Brien, 1 Medbury Road, North Attleboro, Mass.
Excuse me. License Committee, please.
We have an application for a Ring-a-Bell license to sell ice cream on the streets of Attleboro from Shauna O'Brien, 1 Medbury Road, North Attleboro, Mass.
License Committee, please.
We also have several communications received about concerns with the city's proposed fiscal year school budget from Mark Hool, the Attleboro High School Athletic Director, Rachel Skirker, a second-year teacher at Attleboro High School, Stacy Haven, 16 Ice Pond Road, Attleboro, Mass. Christine Lucier, an Attleboro resident and parent educator for Project Connect Family Center, the Birth to 5 program. Guida Botello, an Attleboro resident. Rose Brown, 58 Holden Street, Attleboro, Mass. Mrs. Christine Alvarez, 67 Hazel Street, South Attleboro, Mass. Kevin Christofoli, 67 Springdale Ave, Attleboro, Mass. Harley Holmes, a teacher at Attleboro High School. Jacqueline and Dustin Campbell, Attleboro residents. Tanya Sweet, an Attleboro resident. Lisa Ramos, 22 Prospect Street, Attleboro, Mass. Matthew Cote, 32 Russell Tennant Drive, Attleboro, Mass. Tara Frisora, 72 Leewood Lane, Attleboro, Mass. Jessica White, 74 Adler Street, Attleboro, Mass. Kathleen and Robert Haddad, 10 Marissa Circle, Attleboro, Mass. Donna Neunendorf, 39 Ides Hill Lane, Attleboro, Mass. Colleen Gordon, 22 Alfred Street, Attleboro, Mass. Paul and Dulcina George, 16 Edgecliff Avenue, Attleboro, Mass. Lauren Haru Camerand, 140 Rocklawn Ave, Attleboro, Mass. Mrs. Annabella Marquis, 75 Tomlinson Road, South Attleboro, Mass. Mrs. Annabella Luis, 77 Tomlinson Road, South Attleboro, Mass. Lucy Pacheco, 15 Birch Street, number 14, Attleboro, Mass. Steve Dunley, an educator in another school district, Attleboro, Mass. Colleen Gordon, 22 Alfred Street, Attleboro, Mass. Catherine Bluen, 17 Remington Road, Attleboro, Mass.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please. I also wanted to announce to all my colleagues that I've asked our administrative assistant, Ken Owens, to create a notebook so that all communications that we receive regarding the budget will be in there for your perusal. If you want to make copies of them, you may do that. He either has created or he's about to create it, one or the other. So that way, everybody will have access to those, okay? And lastly,
And I also have a communication from Chris Fitzpatrick, an Attleboro resident, urging the municipal council to vote in favor of Councilor Parika's and Denley's new business items.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
And that's all of the other business I have, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to go in the committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you, motion in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are now in the committee of the whole. If there's anyone who has business to bring to the attention of the council, now would be the appropriate time. For those who come into the council, to the podium for the committee of the whole, we ask that you give us your name and address for the record, and that you address your comments to the council as a collective body rather than any individual councilor.
Sure,
Okay?
appreciate it. My name is Mike Crowley. I live at 20 Beagle Club Road in Attleboro.
Okay.
I've been a resident of Attleboro for approximately 8 years. I'm a transplant, very proud of that. I've learned to love the city very quickly, the people that are in it. It's interesting, as I was listening to the comments earlier, particularly about comments on priority and what the priorities of the city are, it brought me back to when I was at the University of Michigan getting my master's about 10 years ago in business strategy. There was one thing that I took away from that, and that the essence of any strategy is that you have to understand what your comparative value is to win. And you don't have many things that you can win on. But what you have to do is you have to prioritize. It is a must. If you don't prioritize, you cannot win. So what is painfully obvious to me as I'm sitting here listening to the conversation tonight is that this city does not have a strategy. It's never been presented. We don't have a common goal. If this were a business, it would be failure. It's painfully obvious. And what happens when you don't have a strategy is that people start to protect their turf. And that's what's going on. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and I brought some comments that will address that issue and where the people that I represent, beginning with my wife, my son who's in the school system, hundreds of people that I talk to out at the soccer fields and baseball fields and all across Attleboro, thousands of other people that are now speaking with us through social media, all active voters now. But I'd like to bring our perspective to you so you can understand where we are on the gravity of this issue, which in our view is a crisis, and it deserves addressing now, because we have 64 teachers that have already received pink slips and another 20 people in the school system that have. They don't want us to wait. So let me talk about this a little bit, and I'll start with what I found interesting with the 2016 fiscal year budget, the letter from the mayor just last year to the council, bringing down to a paragraph at the bottom of this letter. And I'll read what it says is, I'm pleased to submit a budget that requires no increase in our solid waste collection program for fiscal year 2016. This program, in addition to the many other qualities of life programs and services provided under this budget, remain the hallmark of what it means to live in Attleboro. The essence of what it means to live in Attleboro. And then he gives a bunch of examples. Citizens need not travel very far from their homes to see the incredible progress here in Attleboro. Whether it's the new private development happening in South Attleboro and downtown, and soon the industrial business park, or the municipal improvements in Riverfront Drive, the new DPW storage, the maintenance facility, new roadway improvements, are we getting a consistent theme about what the vision of one person is for this town? Because I don't see one mention of our school system, of our people. They are all things that we are building. Our strategy has been based on one person's vision, and I don't think I could agree with this, or I can't disagree with it anymore. And I'm hearing the same thing from hundreds of people. Hundreds. I talk to them. I hear them. They're coming to me. They're coming to us through social media. So I don't think I can recall ever in my short life, I won't date myself, when I've ever seen such a gross miscalculation that, as a community, we're seeing that the mayor has done over the last few weeks politically. The only time we got a response is when social media popped up. That's the only time. Until then, the answer we heard was, there's no money. Teachers make too much money, as it is. That's what we heard. It's disgusting. When you dangle our kids as a negotiating ploy over a bridge in the hope of extracting something, that's a third rail that you've touched. It's been touched. We have crossed a Rubicon now that we cannot go back on, and we're not going to. So I have with me an article that I just pulled out today from November of 2015, just last year, November 17th. State certifies Attleboro budget surplus totaling more than $5 million. Where'd it go? Where is it? Where are we spending our money? $21.3 million in surplus since 2003. Where is it? Where are we spending our money? We've got $4 million for our kids and their teachers, which in our view is the #1 priority for Attleboro to win in the future. And now we're hearing that we don't have any funds for the teachers and we're already laying them off. This isn't about who we're going to cut. This is about what's happened to the money that we have had. And as taxpayers, and as you representing us, we are in effect your boss. We're here asking the tough questions. And there needs to be far more sense of urgency than what we saw earlier tonight. So let me continue. When the priorities of the city are going to shift away from building things that are nice and maybe not critical, and instead focused on investing in the one thing that is crucial for our city's future, our kids. Because that, same questions. Why have we not reinvested in these kids before? We knew this problem was coming. It's been said for years. I think I heard from one of the councilors tonight, for 10 or 15 years. This is not new. It should not be a crisis. And there are times when a singular misaligned vision of a leader and a small group around him or her becomes so disconnected from the needs of their constituents that we find citizens like us who are as activated and motivated as we are tonight. And that's what's happening. That's the Rubicon that's been crossed. Maybe that's a good thing for the city, because now we have a voting block of people who are extremely motivated to make sure that the priorities are where they should be. The 7,500 students in the city, throw in the parents, grandparents, what's that, half the voting block? Do the math. The nice thing about organizing people today is that with social media, so many common voices now have very active and motivated voters can mobilize. And what we're here to say is that we no longer have the confidence that a single person can make the decisions for this city. This is my voice speaking for many, that there is a vote of no confidence, which is why, the precise reason, you should vote in the affirmative for this act. We want you to have that oversight. We want it to be shifted away from one person. The lack of strategy, years of spending on things that we don't need, only to find ourselves we're taken from Peter to pay Paul. It's not acceptable when our kids and their futures are being affected. We think it's the singular most important issue our city has faced. We absolutely want the council to be able to step in and ensure that our schools get funded. And we want far more transparency going forward in the budgeting process with the confidence that there's a guaranteed tripwire, that when you have surpluses like this just of a year ago, that they are not spent on buying new parks or municipal lands or building $1 million cantilevers over a street or $10 million DPW garages at the expense of our kids. Unacceptable. We want that in your hands. And I cannot understand, as some of you have voiced, why you would not want that yourselves. It makes absolutely no logical sense. And to be the real cynical, kind of put it out there type of statement, when I start hearing this quid pro quo, this false argument that our kids or our safety, our kids are our police, we have never once said, go back on safety, cut police. That has not come from us. That's come from somewhere else. But it is a false argument. Shouldn't hear it. It's meant to scare people. The letter that the mayor put out with the 800,000 that magically appeared after our social media came to light, it's great. Makes us wonder if there's how much more is there. We've looked at the budget. We see a lot of urgency in last year's fiscal 2016 year budget. $100,000 for painting windows at the library as urgent. Makes you wonder how much more is there. I know there's a position here, a mayor's assistant, that's $50,000 a year. Why is that not being cut? That's a teacher. That's a teacher. So we need to understand the budget. We want you to have more transparency. We want you to have more power. And we have a voting bloc now that knows what's going on. And what I can tell you is that we're watching closely. We know how many votes you got. We know how much you won by. We know if you got 400, 500 votes. We've already got 1,800 people on Facebook. We'll get it to 5,000. Push of a button these days, things can change real quick. That's our tool. That's the tool that we carry in, and we will use it. So open up, ask me questions. I hope I can expand more on what I have. I respectfully turn it back to the council.
Thank you. I noticed that you appeared to be reading statement. Did you have was your statement that you presented here all written out ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay. If you
Parts
could
of it.
that's fine. If you could, before you leave, if you could either give it to our admin person to make I'd like a copy so we can get into to the minutes, or if you have it electronically, if you'd like to send it to him electronically, if you could just speak with him.
I'll send the electronic version. I've got notes and things written all over it.
So thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Conti and then Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President. Two things, Mike. One, you mentioned an article that you saw today. What was that article? Was that the article in the newspaper, or was that an article in the trade media?
It was the article from the Sun Chronicle last November.
Okay, good.
That said the state certified the budget surplus.
Mike, I found what you said to be very powerful and very perceptive, coming from someone who is, I think, speaking with great knowledge, but I don't know what your past history is. Could you just fill me in on who you are, what your profession is, what your background is?
Sure. I am don't like to admit it, I'm a CPA by trade of a long time ago. I was my undergraduate. I have an MBA from the University of Michigan. I've been doing startups for 25 years, funding them.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for saying what you said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
So I just wanted to thank you for coming in as well, because I think the voices that I've heard over the last couple of weeks really are important, and I think what you're saying is they're multiplying, and I just appreciate that you're the voice for all of them in the city, and that there'll be more of that coming along. I think it's important.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Parika.
Thank you, President Cook.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming in tonight. I was completely captivated and sealed into my seat, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And thank you for coming in and being so impassioned about it. There was one little piece, if you could explain, you speak about your social media presence. Perhaps you could enlighten us on who you are or who you're representing or where to find you on social media.
Sure. So I'll have to. It's actually not me. There's a group of parents that started their own Facebook page, and which I became aware of. My wife, full disclosure, is one of those. But it was sort of a spontaneous combustion of activism that started this page on a Thursday of last week. Facebook page is called Attleboro for Education. So I think with
I'm sorry, you can just do a quick Facebook search and be able to find
Attleboro,
it.
yeah, go to Facebook, do a search on it, you'll find it.
And click like.
Click like, yes, absolutely like the page, of which 1,700 people already have. I think they had 1,000 likes in 24 hours. So it's really a way to bring all the news and information to the parents, to the people that this is affecting, and it's activating them. It's informing them what's going on, and that's really the intent.
If I may just follow up, so are you having, is your group having discussion, has there been outreach to the school committee and things like that as well to help fill that Facebook page with information that's accurate and?
I can't speak for it because it's not my page. I'm just a poster. I believe all that is going on. The moms, they're all mothers that are doing this they're extremely well informed, highly educated, and I've been very impressed with the diligence of going out and getting that information and trying to be as factual as they can. But I can't go any further than that because it's not mine, but I'm certainly watching it closely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Blair.
Yes.
I'm glad you come in tonight, and I appreciate you talking, but that article from the Attleboro Sun, is that a total?
Chronicle, Sun Chronicle. Sun
Attleboro
Chronicle,
Sun.
yeah.
See, that's how old I am. Does that state that it's a city, water department, wastewater department for a total of 5 million?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you realize that the water department, just for your information, I'm not being fresh, right? But your water department and your wastewater department are separate entities,
Sure.
and that is turned over. We cannot use that money?
I get that.
Okay.
Do you want me to read what the article said about where that money went? I mean, I'm happy to read the article.
Well, it went into superstructure down there, I'm sure.
No, not necessarily. They're talking about the rest of it in here. I don't think that's what it says. It says they spent $600,000 to buy land, $680,000 for revitalization of Angel Park. Eventually, the state will repay $400,000. So
From Angel Park was not redone.
I'm just telling you what the article says. I'm just reporting what it says. So, but these are the questions that I think we want transparency on. We spent one day using CPA skills, a couple other moms who are also CPAs, going through the budget, and I think we could identify a bunch of things that raise more questions and we want more transparency on, just like what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, well, I believe you deserve that, don't get me wrong. But water and wastewater are two separate entities. If they bought land, and if my memory serves me correct, that was to protect the watershed? So it come out of the water department, cannot be spent to purchase a piece of land.
It still says the city will still have $1.638 million in free cash and at least $1 million in a rainy day account. Is that what you're referring to, or is that something else?
Free cash in a rainy day account has nothing to do with that free cash that was certified.
Still things that raise questions. Those are things we want to know. We want to know if it's even $100,000, that's 2 teachers. Can we walk our way back to 66 teachers if we find it $50,000 and $100,000 at a time? And it begs the question, if this has been going on for this many years, I think we know why we are in a crisis, because we have not been saving for the day that we knew this was coming, from what I hear. That's the issue. And that's why there's a vote of no confidence. That's why.
Well, there's a lot of, I won't get into a lengthy discussion with you, but there's other things that you should be looking at also.
Happy to look at them.
Councilor Cooper and then Councilor Hall.
Councilor Parika asked the questions, but really thank you, Mike, for coming and telling us exactly where you stand. I look at that page daily, or I get calls saying, "Did you see this?" or "Did you see that?" or see some familiar faces in the audience that I run into. With 3 kids all in baseball, I'm somewhere every night of the week virtually. So I appreciate your enthusiasm to help find a solution, because I think that's what this is really all about. At the end of the day, when you boil off all the emotion and you get down to the meat of it, that's really what I think that this is about. I think that I can tell you next week, with the budget in my hand and being able to look at what really level funded budgeting means, because what level funded budgeting means to me versus what it might mean to somebody else might be 2 different things. And I know in my company that I work for, I know what they expect for level funded budgeting. So we need to look at all that and then come to a decision and come to it quickly, as Councilor Cook suggested. And I'm happy that we were able to get some more time to analyze the problem and also really know the facts around where are we exactly, where could we look at doing some things differently, and then come up with a plan and a strategy. And it's not going to be, that plan and strategy isn't going to happen this year. What is the 3-year plan? That's the questions I was asking at the school committee meeting. This is a 3-year or a 5-year or a 7-year or a 10-year plan, but somebody's got to come up with a plan, propose it, approve it, and move it forward and stick to it.
That's right.
And so, you know, I think that there's, you know, different, there's other priorities, there's other issues that have come up as a result of it, and I think it's, at the end of the day, I'd like to think it's all good.
It is all good, but one comment on that is, I completely agree that when you're coming up with a strategy about how Attleboro wins, whatever that means, but we all want Attleboro to win. I think we have that common theme, maybe different ways to get there. But 3 and 5 year plans are good, but this crisis is right now, and you've got the school system, like has been in the paper, and it is already happening. It is a catastrophic spiral of death for a city, because people will move from the city. They'll move, and that creates less tax base. That depresses property values, which depresses tax base even more. So you have less and less money to do the things we're talking about. And pretty soon your 3 and 5 year strategy doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
So you have to address the crisis now. You cannot let it sit. And the uncertainty that's already been created with the teachers today, they're not going to wait around. They aren't going to wait 8 weeks. They're going to do what humans do. They're going to find another alternative. They're going to find another job. They're going to leave. That's human capital that is not easy to replace. It takes a long time to build up that kind of devotion where they've had so little funds for so long. Now we hear this number. The mayor's putting in $1 million extra bucks for the city. What isn't said is it's only 1% above. That's 1% of the budget above the state minimum. And we've been doing that for years when the state median is 30% above. You can't survive long term funding the school system that way. And my wife's a real estate agent. The number one thing she hears for people considering to move into Attleboro, we like the house, looks great, don't like the school system. The perception's already there because we're at the bottom of the funding in the state. You got that like they're talking about now, and it's a free fall. It's a huge problem. That's why we're so active.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for coming in. You mentioned the fact that you would like to be open to learning more about the budget. Are you really open if the mayor is willing to sit down and speak with you and spend time with you? Are you open to really hearing how this budget works and understanding some of the concerns that we have to deal with also? That's my question to you, because I think that would be a great opportunity for you, because you are a spokesperson, to bring back that correct information. So I'm hoping that you're open to doing that.
I would absolutely love the opportunity to go through that budget line item by line item.
Well, that's not what no, wait a minute, don't twist my words, that's not what I said, okay?
What would be
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I asked you, would you be open, if you had an opportunity, to sit down and discuss the budget and how the budget is done here in Attleboro and some of the concerns that the mayor has and some of the ways we get money from the state? Would you be willing and open to having that conversation?
And my answer would be the exact same answer to what I feel is the same question. I'm absolutely open to it. I will spend as much time as absolutely necessary to understand that budget. I have lots of questions.
Good, because I think it would be good. You're a great spokesperson. I think you could add a lot in terms of being able to bring back the correct information. And I think that's what's most important, is that the correct information gets out, because I think there is a lot of misinformation. I also want to say I totally agree with you when it comes to strategic planning. I come from an environment where we lived off a strategic plan. However, I also come from an environment where deficits did happen that we could not plan for, and there were things that had to be done in between that. And I hope that people understand that those things happen too. But I think if you don't have a plan,
That's right.
if you don't have a plan, okay, you're missing step
The
one.
strategy allows you, when the crisis happens, to say what's 1, 2, and 3, because
Correct.
these are the most important things. So it makes the decisions very easy. And I think my point earlier was, I'm seeing a lot of struggle with what should be easy decisions, but I don't fault anybody because I just don't think that there is that common strategy. And I really can't emphasize enough, I think it would be incredibly valuable for the city to think of itself as if it's a business. What are we gonna win on? Ask that question, create that strategy, so that when these things come, we go back to what is the plan? But right now, we got a crisis, and that's a long-term process. So we got something that needs to be solved today. And $800,000 that was found last week isn't gonna be enough. It's not even a drop in the bucket for what we need. So I really would like to see, going back to my initial statement as to why we're here, we want that particular new business that was put tonight, voted in from your council, put on the floor for a full vote. We would like to see everybody pass it unanimously. I think it is a tool, it is a thing that the voters of this city would like to see. And the people that I represent and speak for, I absolutely know they want it.
I did want to let you know that when the budget comes down, which will be in the next week or two, the budget, just in case you weren't aware of it, the budget, not just this year but in the past years, is posted on the city's website. At the same time, something that I started when I was a finance chair back in 2004 was the council, as far as the city side of the budget is concerned, because we're not involved with making the school committee budget. That's
Right.
their business,
Correct.
as you know. We have meetings that, and I was instrumental in getting them televised. So when we will have all the department heads come in, they present their budget before this honorable body, and then we are asking questions on them, and we go through the budget line by line. And we're not getting public input at that time, because that's the time for the council to be interacting with the various department heads on their budget for the coming year. And then, that's just part of the process. That'll be beginning once we get the budget. So, and those are televised, and then they're repeated on television. So, just in terms of seeing what approach the council uses, which is somewhat different than the approach that the school committee uses doing their budget. I just want you to be aware of that. There will also be a public hearing. At this point, I'm waiting exactly for when we get the hearing to be able to schedule it, but I would imagine it will be somewhere, I'm guessing somewhere probably the first Tuesday in June. So we will be looking for public input at that time.
Okay,
So I
great.
just want to let you know.
Appreciate it.
Okay, in
Thank
terms
you.
of the process going forward. Great. Councilor DeLisio, you had a question?
Mr. Crowley, thank you for coming, and I believe you're one of the residents who wrote a letter.
Yes.
So thank you for that as well. You bring up some good points. You bring up a lot of good points. We've all talked about misinformation. We've all talked about transparency. My fear is these become buzzwords if there's no action. So what I propose is, let's take action. If you in your, and I know you said it's not your Facebook page, and I've seen it. I mean, it's impressive what's been done. Compile a list of questions and answers, of questions that you have. Let's get them out there. Let's get them to us, and let's work together, shoulder to shoulder. Let's get the answers to these questions, and then we can start to dispel what's truth, what's fiction, what's kind of true, but a little not so much true, and let's really get down. Because once we get everything on the table, as I said earlier, put our cards on the table, then we can start to find solutions.
And just for clarity, when you say let's find the truth, who's the we? Is that everybody here? What's we mean?
Whatever the appropriate thing could be. It could be any number of things. I have no problem sitting down with you one-on-one and working on this. I have no problem, however the president thinks that we should address it. But I think that there are questions out there, and a lot of the answers that are out there aren't necessarily true. Or there's some mistruths in it, and I think it's time that we bubble everything up and we get everything out. I hate with a passion when people talk transparency, because it's now a buzzword. We have an opportunity. If there are questions, it's our role to answer those questions. I would love to get those questions. I'd love to sit down with you. I'd love to sit down with anyone. And let's get those questions answered.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Relative to the request, if there are questions regarding the budget and some of these other items that you raised tonight that you're looking for answers, if you want to submit those, again, you'll go through Ken to submit them to the council, and I will see that we get answers for you. And those that we can't answer, I'll pass it along to whoever can answer them.
And when we're referring to the budget, are we talking about the 202016 or how
Well,
far back?
you had some questions. I mean, the current fiscal year is going to be over in 8 weeks or
that's
whatever
my
at
point.
that point. But there are, some of the questions you asked about, for example, like the free cash and what it went to, and Council Blair tried to explain on some of it. There are certain parts that when it comes down the way that they group it, there are certain things that the money can only be used for that. Some of the other things that you had mentioned in terms of, you mentioned like this cantilevered, walkway thing.
Grant, we get
Right,
it.
that's a grant, all right? So there are certain things that the city will apply for grants to do certain things. It has nothing to do with our, the operating budget or whatever. It's a totally different thing altogether, So again, things like that, in terms of getting, questions that you have on some of those things, I think to try to go back and rehash the entire 2016 budget at a time when we're gonna be, hashing over the 2017 might be a little bit too late. But, you had mentioned about looking at the budget when it becomes available and, seeing
That's what I
areas or
prefer to do. If
questions.
it is in fact coming down in a week,
I
we should
know
start
Councilor Cooper mentioned it was a week. That's different from the information that I got when I've been talking to the administration in terms of when we're going to be getting it. I'm thinking more it's going to be on the 17th as opposed to the 10th. But again, sometimes it's going to be finished, and it's not. I'm talking the 17th more as a formal presentation of the council, because there is a formal presentation. But around that time that's happening, it's usually posted and made available on the website. I think that's what Council Cooper was referring to. Whether perhaps I'm not putting words in his mouth, but the information when as I said, usually when we're working, on the budget or on capital improvements or on the tax classification or whatever. In my capacity as a liaison with the administration, I'm asking these questions and, pushing to get it down because, there are certain things that we need to do in terms of meeting advertising requirements, for example, on the budget. Once the budget comes down, we have to advertise it for 2 weeks running, and it's not just a little blurb saying there'll be a public hearing on the budget. It has to identify all the various categories. It's not every line item, but it's categories that have to be, and it's, if you've ever seen it in the newspaper, it takes up roughly about a third of the page.
right?
And, so we have to, that information has to be prepared and put in. And, my concern is always that when we get, in this capacity, I want to make sure that when we get that, we have enough time to advertise so we can get the public hearing, so that we'll be able to then get the public input, combine that with the information we get during our review of the budget, and then putting together our budget message and recommendations, et cetera, to the mayor.
My guess is this will be probably the most read advertisement about that budget that the city has seen in the last 30 years, so we'll be watching.
It could very well be. I mean, I can tell you from feedback that I've gotten since I started this back in 2004, that the meetings with the budget heads in terms of people being able to see who department heads are and so forth, from what I've been told by my constituents and others around the city, that seems to be, of all the stuff that we do, that and the capital improvements, the most watched.
Yep.
So people can see what's going on at it. And, sometimes it generates questions that are delivered individually to councilors, sometimes at the public hearing.
Sure. I think getting back to one of your suggestions, probably the first thing that I will take you up on right away, and anybody else that can help explain, is the structure of the government funding budgets and what goes where. Because I know there are different funds, and I know some of them are dedicated to certain things. I get it. I'm going back 25 plus years to my government accounting classes, which I promptly forgot about as soon as I left school. But I know they're there, and I know that there is a certain mechanism to them that makes them different. So I think starting at that point and before the budgets come out would be extremely helpful. Sure. But from there then, still getting back to line item type of detail.
Okay, very good.
If I can just wrap up what I was saying, I think it's important that if there are questions out there, we gotta get them answered.
That's
Whether
right.
whether it's about how do we get here, how do we move on from here?
That's right.
What's truth, what's not truth? I think, let's have some open and honest conversation, understanding it's gonna be uncomfortable at times. But I think we need to have that.
Okay, Council Reynolds and then Council Cooper.
So I just want to suggest, based on what's happening right here now, is that I really don't have that much interest in what's truth, what's not truth. What I care about right now is what this gentleman is talking about, is that it's been 15 years plus coming, and here we are now. And the issue is what are we going to do about it now? I don't care about yesterday, I care about today and what we're going to do in the future, and not how we're going to make that, because yesterday is not going to bring that money
That's right.
that we need for the school. Today, tomorrow, as Councilor Cooper said, but we don't have 3 years to bring back the 60 teachers. We have just a very limited amount of time,
3 or 4
and
months.
I don't think that we can, do this.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I'm right in line with this gentleman, and I hope that there's 2,000, 5,000 plus people that fall behind you after this. That's what I hope.
Thank you, Council Cooper.
So just for clarification and make it perfectly clear what I said. What I said was that when I went to Barry's office this evening at 5:15, he told me when I said, I want to see the fiscal year 17 budget, he said, you can see it when everybody else does on May 10th. And I said, thank you very much, and I came down to this meeting. So it's just so that it's not you said, drives me berserk. I went up there, when I went up there before I came down here, I wanted to see it. I was away for 10 days, and I felt like I missed something, because I didn't have the budget yet, right? I went back and watched the shenanigans the week before, And then I said, so, I'm missing something. Something doesn't add up for me. Because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of things happening. I'm reading in the paper that teachers are getting pink slips and I'm getting chest pain. I have a discussion with Counselor Hall the subsequent week here in the parking lot after the meeting, and I'm saying, wait a minute. We don't have the budget, but we know we're gonna lay 63 teachers off.
Right.
Yeah, we got a problem here, man. We got a problem. And so, tonight, when I pulled in and I saw Barry's car out there, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go up and ask him, and that's what he told me. May 10th, I would have it. It would be available for my perusal on the 10th. So, did he mean that the mayor was gonna come do the presentation that night? No, I didn't say that. I said I'd be able to see it on the 10th, and I'm anxiously awaiting the ability to do that. Like the other 10 people that sit here and everybody at home and in the that came this evening. So, I think it's great that we have people coming in and giving presentations and telling us what their feelings are and what the solution is. Nobody can sit here and say they have the answer right now, but I think we gotta come up with something. And we gotta come up with something with some pretty quickly, and it won't make everybody happy. But Judy Robbins told me in 2007 when I ran for city council, and I ran against her, and I beat her, and Judy Robbins came to my house, and she said to me, with every vote, you make an enemy. She said, I'm gonna give you 2 pieces of advice. With every vote, you make an enemy, and always think before it comes out of your mouth, how's that gonna look in the paper? And I've always kind of thought about that, and I'm thinking about that sitting here tonight, that, we are, if not at, we are very close to a crisis. Mike, I think there's something I just thought of, there's something you should look at tonight when you go home, and everybody else as well. Go on to boston.com. Today at 6:02 this morning in the Boston Business Journal, they released statewide teacher salaries. And they gave the 5-year look back. And I think that, take a look at it. Take a look at it.
Absolutely, we will.
Councilor Parika?
Thank you, President Cook.
You're welcome.
Just to piggyback on Councilor Reynolds' comments, there are 66 teachers that you classified as human capital, which I couldn't agree with a description like that anymore if I tried. I heard it earlier today and I was kind of blown away by that. We have 3 weeks to figure out how to stop the bleeding of these individuals who are leaving our school system. They got their pink slips, they have families to raise and responsibilities and bills, and they can't wait for us to swoop in and see if we can save them, or maybe not save them, or if it's gonna work, or if it's not gonna work. We can't wait for that. It is, as you said, a catastrophic spiral of death. There's a conversation taking place over at the high school right now, which I believe that the mayor confirmed that he was going to be at. And he's going to be talking to the director of the music services over there that got pink slipped. When I'm getting phone calls from the teachers, the art teachers, like all of those supplemental services that are the reasons why some kids actually go to school, we can't afford to be inactive. And the business that took place tonight, hopefully will get remedied on Tuesday, but we can't be a do-nothing council. It's not the first time I've said it. It won't be the last time I've said it. By postponing it, by letting it die in committee, by having it fail on the council floor, it proves that we're a do-nothing council.
It's not acceptable in our view. It absolutely cannot happen, and I can't stress that enough.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
And again, if you could just see Ken, our admin person, and get that information to him. Ken's at the back right there. Wave, there we go. Thank you. Anyone else to bring information to the council this evening? Hearing none, oh, I'm sorry. Again, we have you. No, I didn't see.
My name is Kathy Rocchio. I live on 18 Brushwood Lane in Attleboro, Mass.
Did you get that?
I didn't get the last.
Could you have the last name again?
Rocchio, R-O-C-C-H-I-O.
R-O-C-C.
C-C. H-I-O.
H-I-O, and your address, please?
18 Brushwood Lane.
Brushwood Lane, okay, thank you.
I just want to back up what Mr. Crowley said. You know, yes, there aren't a lot of us here this evening. A lot of people are at Willett because there was a PTO meeting this evening that the school committee was going to be addressing. I know a lot of them are at the high school because they want to hear what the mayor has to say. So I just want to make you guys aware that, yeah, there's not a lot of us here this evening, but the number's strong. I just checked on that Attleboro for Education. We're at 1,653 people. And that's not even counting my parents, their grandparents. I grew up in Attleboro. My parents grew up in Attleboro. They went to Attleboro High School. I went to Attleboro High School. My husband went to Attleboro High School. My kids, I have a junior in high school. He had the choice to go to Bishop Fee or Attleboro High School. His comment to me was, "You and Dad turned out okay. Why wouldn't I want to go to Attleboro High School?" Mrs. Higney, we went to high school. We went to high school together. I want to see my next child, who is a fourth grader, be able to get all the benefits and experiences that we all got through going through the Attleboro school system. I want to keep my kids here. I don't want to move. But you know what? When you're ranked number 266 out of 292, and both me and my husband make very decent money, why would I want to stay? So again, I just want to point that out, and the fact that it was made clear earlier, you people who voted in by us, you work for us, not for the mayor, not for other people on the board. You work for us. And as quickly as you all got on the board, I'm pretty sure you can all be quickly voted off the board. And that's all I have to say. I do appreciate everybody coming together and trying to work on the issue. You know, enough of the finger pointing. I agree with everything everybody's saying. But I just wanted to back up Mr. Crowley and say, the numbers aren't here this evening, but the people are speaking strongly. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
Please, no questions, please, no
No,
questions.
no, okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm not a good public speaker. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
You did great.
Is there anyone else here to speak to the council? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to arise.
Second.
Thank you, the motion is in order, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. All right, we are back in regular session at 8:32. Our next item of business, our committee reports. The committee reports will begin this evening with, as always, left to right. Councilor Delicio.
Thank you, President Cook.
Hold on just 1 second,
Reporting for
okay?
ordinances, elections, legislative matters from the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I move to adopt the emergency preamble. That the Attleboro Municipal Council vote to take action as provided in the city charter, section 2-9, B, regarding the emergency which presently exists relative to the request of the mayor to discontinue using the AccuVote machine so the image cast tabulators may be used.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, though. I appreciate
Hold on,
the
hold on.
proactive.
Finish yet.
Let him finish.
Due to the time constraints involved, the nature of the emergency makes it necessary to take action without wasting the prescribed time as provided in the city charter because this vote is needed by May 11th, 2016 in order to use the ICP tabulators for the September 8th, 2016 state primary.
Second.
Thank you, the motion is now in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, this is something that we have to do. It's a timing issue at this point. We voted in the new tabulators, I believe, out of Mr. Conti's committee last week, 2 weeks ago rather, so now we just have to get rid of these ones so we can accept the new ones.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Again, this is on the emergency preamble. Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Delicio.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mrs. Parika,
Yes.
Vice President Denley,
Yes.
Ms. Hegney,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes. We're on to the motion.
Thank you. From the docket of April 19th, 2016, I move to approve as an emergency measure the request of the mayor to discontinue using the AccuVote machine so the image cast tabulators may be used.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Nope.
Does anybody have any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Hegney,
Yes.
Vice President Denley,
Yes.
Mrs. Parika,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Finally, before I proceed with this motion, I'd like to request a waiving of the second half of the
Yes, I was going to suggest that because it had already been read before.
Yep, all right, thank you.
So-
From the docket of March 1st, 2016, I move to adopt the following ordinance changes related to the Capron Park Zoo, delete in its entirety and replace with the following. Section 2-3.7 Capron Park Zoo admission fees and policies amended 6/24/10. Section 12-3.7 Capron Park Zoo admission fees and policies children. And I just want to go through the prices again, just because there was some confusion earlier on. First, I'm going to do the residents, then the non-residents. Children under the age of 3, $6.50. Youths 3 to 12. Children under the age of 3 are free. Youths age 3 to 12 are $6.50. Adults age 13 and over are $7.50. Senior citizens age 65 and over $5.75. Military $4.75. Let's see, group rates of 5 or more individuals, nonprofit organizations are only. Children under the age of 3 are free. Youth 3 to 12, $6. Adults 13 and over. For non-residents, free for children under the age of 3, youths would be $7.50. Adults 13 and over would be $9. Senior citizens age 65 and over would be $6.75. Military would be $4.75. Again, for the great group rates for 5 or more individuals of non-profit organizations, only are non-residents. Children under the age of 3 are free. Youth are $7. Adults are $8.50. I request the.
Second.
Waiving. Okay, thank you. Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments?
Yeah, I think we've talked this one to death. I do want to thank everyone for their feedback, for their communication. I want to thank Jean, who came down, for the public hearing, a committee hearing, a meeting. I think, was there a third one? I know we've had several committees on this. We need to move on this so Jean can start to change her fee structure as she gets ready for her busy season. And I know there was a lot of support for it on the floor, so I'm looking for that tonight as well.
Thank you. Any comments, Councilor Denley?
Thank you, President Cook. I will
You're welcome.
not be supporting this motion tonight. I've said it before, so I'll try and keep it short. But I'm elected by the residents. I represent the residents, and that's who I serve. I imagine that's why we already have a split rate, where residents pay less than non-residents. Currently, residents do subsidize Capron Park through their taxpayer money and through keeping the park beautiful. And I understand that we're trying to remedy that. What I don't understand is we can remedy that by keeping resident fees exactly the same and then just increasing non-resident fees by an additional 75 cents. And I've asked so many times, why would that extra 75 cents matter? And I've never gotten a convincing answer. So I think there's a really easy solution, which I would fully support, which is to keep the resident rates the same, and then instead of increasing non-resident fees by $2, increase them by $2.75. I understand I don't have support for that from the council, so I will respectfully be voting no. I support the residents of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Delicio.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Denley. I think we all support the residents of the city. I mean, I think that's what we're here for. When we did the math with the, raising it by 75 cents across the board, it still came out $21,000 shy of where we needed to be. I did talk to Jean again, and I said, so I have a hard time believing that we don't have residents coming to the zoo. And she told me that a majority of the group passes are families from Attleboro. So they are using it, and it's limited taxpayer money that goes to support the zoo, as a majority of it is out of her budget, which is where we're at. But I did look into those concerns that you raised. I didn't want you to think otherwise.
Councilor Denley.
I will not vote to increase the resident rates.
Thank you. Councilor Hall.
I have one general statement I'd like to make. I'm really getting a little bit frustrated with other councilors professing that they are for the residents, as if to insinuate that the rest of us are not. I would like to make that known. I really think that's disrespectful, and I would prefer not to hear that again and have us be sort of judged by that. I believe that we are all here to support the residents of Attleboro. Thank you.
Councilor Denley.
I will be very clear. I will not vote to increase the residents' rates.
You can
Thank you.
Thank
do
you.
whatever you want, but please
Thank
listen
you.
to what I say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with, let's see, who is this going to
Mr.
be?
Delicio.
Councilor Delicio.
Yes.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Vice President Denley.
No.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
The motion passes.
Thank you. That is all the business I have tonight for ordinances, elections, legislative matters. We'd like to call for a committee meeting next week for appropriate time, please.
Thank you. Council Hall.
Thank you, President.
You're welcome.
I do not have anything to report tonight, except I do want to bring up a couple of things. The first thing is I'm still looking for volunteers to come out and help put flags down on the graves, so, for the veterans for Memorial Day, so if anybody's interested, please get in touch with me. And also, I did want to put a little plug in for the Blue Jeans Ball that we all got invited to, and if you do go, you will get one of these awesome-looking red scarves, okay? So, that's my plug for that, and I do want to ask for a meeting at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, Council Conti.
Reporting for the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, we have no business to bring before the council this evening. However, we look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Council Parika.
Thank you, President Cook. Reporting for
welcome.
traffic and transportation. I have no business to bring forward to the council this evening and look forward to a committee meeting at the next appropriate time where I actually will have some things to discuss.
Thank you, Councilor, excuse me, Vice President Dudley.
Thank you, President
welcome.
Cook. Reporting for the Committee on Licenses, I have 4 motions tonight. From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I move to approve the application for a 2016 Hackney Carriage Public Stand License from Hool's City Cabs, 70 Park Street, Attleboro, Mass. for 9 cabs.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No.
Does anybody have any concerns or comments? Everyone on this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I move to approve the following applications for a 2016 renewal Hackney Carriage driver's license from Peter A. Sorrell, 255 Elm Street, Apartment 2, North Attleboro, Massachusetts; Jeffrey C. Fasulo, 65 North Main Street, P.O. Box 12, Attleboro, Massachusetts; Dennis R. O'Donnell, 126 Wilmarth Street, Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter also requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I move to approve the application for a 2016 Ring-a-Bell license to sell ice cream on the streets of Attleboro from Ronald A. Pelagi, doing business as Pelagi Brothers Ice Cream, 28 Delta Drive, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02860.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please? Does anybody have any concerns or comments? Hearing none, a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
And lastly, from the docket of May 3rd, I move to approve the application for a 2016 renewal Hawkers and Peddlers license from Ronald A. Pelagi, doing business as Pelagi Brothers Ice Cream, 28 Delta Drive, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02860.
Second.
Motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, sir.
Okay, does anybody have any concerns or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, President Cook. That is
welcome.
all the motions I have for tonight. I would like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Mr. Hager. I think that, the reading of this, given her voice, is going to go to, Mr. Blair. Mr. Blair?
Thank you. Reporting for budget and appropriations from the docket of May 3rd, 2016. I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $64,084.58 from account 1124100-578360, citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week, to the following accounts to fund the accrued payroll for wages earned through June 30th. $935.20 council salary, $5,552.77 budget and administration salary, $2,275 auditor's salary and wages, $3,560.62 assessor's salary, $3,809.12 treasurer's salary, $4,961.17 collector's salary, $5,814.96 personnel salary, $3,455.69 clerk salary, $1,613.76 election salary, $4,919.09 planning and land use salary, $1,832 animal control salary, $6,048.98 health salary, $4,869.72 council on aging and salary and wages, $1,738.94 veteran salary, $12,697.56 library salary.
Second.
Thank you, the motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Now, these are a normal procedure we have for that 53rd week. Put aside.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Council Conti?
Yeah, through the chair to Vice Chair Councilor Blair. I know we've dealt with this several years in the past, and I don't remember the explanation of why we have to deal with it every year and it's not a budgeted item. We know the 53rd week is gonna come in the beginning of the year, but there's gotta be a mechanism that prevents this from being budgeted. Do you know what it is, or do you recall what
I
it is?
think, and I may be wrong, Mr. Conti, but this is a mixture, I think, of where it lags into, sometimes into the next fiscal year for us.
No, I'm pretty sure that the 53rd week has to come out of this year's budget. That's why it's in front of us now.
Yeah, but it's, I'm not
I
sure.
don't remember why it's not.
All I know is it's come before us.
Yeah. Well,
before.
you're right. It's before us, we gotta pay them, otherwise these people are not gonna get paid the 53rd
Yeah.
week. I'm just questioning.
And it does,
Maybe for future discussion, or maybe a follow-up memo would be in order.
yeah,
Ms. Cooper?
it does come out of citywide reserve fund for compensation, 53rd week. So evidently, there's a account this money is put into, and we probably don't know the exact amount, so it can't be a budgeted amount.
I think
He
that's
does
it.
budget.
So there is an account for it?
Yes.
There is a account
Okay.
for it, yeah. Council Cooper?
He does budget for the
Right.
53rd week.
And that's
What he's
coming from.
asking us to do is take that budgeted amount and allocate it by
And allocate it.
department.
Release it by department.
That's right.
And there is
Because he
a,
doesn't know what that amount, exact dollar to the penny amount is gonna be.
Because when he plans the budget, he doesn't know who's gonna
Right.
be in place at the time of
Right.
the 53rd week. I got that. Okay, good. Thank
That's
you,
why every department's not listed here.
Mr. President.
Any other concerns or,
Thank you, Mr.
concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair,
yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Hegney,
Yes.
That was a yes.
Vice President Denley,
Yes.
Mrs. Parika,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
the motion passes. That's,
We have no other business this evening for budget and appropriation. We request a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
thank you for handling that. Motion from Ms. Hegney. Ms. Reynolds?
Thank you, President Cook. Reporting for city property and claims, I have two motions this evening, and the first one is one of those that I actually hate. From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, in accordance with Section 112 of the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro, I move to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. 2 cases of paper per school from an anonymous donor to Hyman Fine, Studley and Thatcher. 1 HP Chromebook 11G4 Celeron and licensure for same with an estimated value of $231.81 to Beth Batar's grade 3 class at Willett Elementary from Tajandar Parmar. 2,000 worth of infield mix to fix up the infields of both baseball diamonds at Thatcher Elementary School from the Attleboro Youth Association.
Second.
Thank you, the motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
And my only comment is, the reason I dislike these is because I think this is what the taxes should pay for, and these types of donations are not things that our parents should be making. It just frustrates me, but those are the ends of my comments.
Are there any other concerns or comments? Council Blair?
Just, I want to thank the people that donate, no matter what it's for, because it's out of the goodness of their heart. And the infield materials, the paper, all of it. I want to thank the people out there that think it's worthwhile to donate.
Thank you.
Yes,
Council
please.
Parika?
Sometimes,
I wasn't sure you had your hand. I
no,
wasn't
it
sure if it
was,
was-
yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Sometimes it is out of the bottom of their hearts or out of the goodness of their heart. Sometimes it's out of necessity. But we're still grateful no matter what, however it happens. That's my comment every time, and they.
That's right,
Thank you.
exactly.
Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of May 3rd, 2016, I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $2,130 from account 1124-1000-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1124-1000-524011 Citywide Maintenance of Buildings to repair the steps at the front entrance of the first mayor's house.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, it's just something that, it's great to see is finally happening. The house is being totally redone over and it's looking good.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? I just want to disclose, again, since the first mayor's house is also the location of the literacy center, that I do serve as a tutor over there. This will not impact my vote. It has nothing to do with trying to get this stuff done. Except that I know how badly the steps are needed because I walk up them several times in the course of a week. So I'm sure they will appreciate that. Okay, any other concerns or comments? Oh, and I did follow the disclaimer earlier to cover this a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think need to follow up then with that also. I'm on the board of directors for the Literacy Center. I'm really happy to see it get done. They say it's a safety issue also, which I think makes it really important, and that will not affect my vote, because I'm not the one who got this going, so.
All right, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Delicio.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Vice President Denley.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
the motion passes. Anything else, Ms. Reynolds?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's it. That's all that, City Property and Claims has tonight for motions, but I'd like to call for a committee meeting at the next available time.
Thank you. Councilor Cooper.
Thank you. I have no business for Personnel and Human Services this evening. However, would call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Okay, do you have any guests coming in anytime soon? Are we all up to date on those?
Likely next week, but, Ken will have to.
Okay. I
work
just
to-
wanted to kind of schedule, I thought there was somebody, so
There
to
were.
do that first.
There are a few, one is a change from an associate position
Right.
to a regular position on the zoning board. I don't think that's as necessary or as high a priority, but I do think that any new people should come before the council, and so we'll have to see what their schedule will allow and go from there.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Jackson.
Thank you. Reporting from for Public Works this evening from the docket of May 3rd, 2016. I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $58,664.98 from East Martin Main Replacement other financing uses to wastewater enterprise fund other financing sources to close fund 3210 East Martin Main Replacement.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Yes, this motion, along with my next motion, both mains have been completed, and the money had been put aside, but the state ended up paying for it, so yay, we're putting money back in.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
Vice President Denley.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
motion passes.
Thank you, I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $40,700 from Tiffany Street, Force Main, other financing uses, to wastewater enterprise fund, other financing sources, to close fund 3211 Tiffany Street, Force Main.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Nope, just making a deposit.
Thank you. Does anybody? Pardon the pun. Does anybody have any comments or concerns? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Delicio.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Vice President Denley.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
the motion passes.
Thank you. From the
You're
docket
welcome.
of May 3rd, 2016, I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $30,000 from account wastewater enterprise fund reserve fund for transfer to account wastewater enterprise fund supplies other for the wastewater department to purchase several items.
Second.
Thank you, the motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Well, I made a deposit and we're gonna take some out.
I guess so.
That's how it's gonna go. They do need a few, supplies in, wastewater, one of them being a golf cart with a special carrier on board it that takes the samples from place to place throughout the department, a few filing cabinets and such. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Agney?
Yes.
Vice President Denley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
the motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
From the docket of October 21st, 2014, I move to strike the following item from the docket of October 21st, 2014, to solve the drainage problems in and around 86 Dexter Street.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, the motion's in order. Any comments, please?
Yes, this had come in through Vice President Denley, and the problem has been resolved to the best of the ability of the Public Works Department, but they're continuing to monitor it to be sure that the problem doesn't exist any longer.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Mr. Denley?
Yeah, I just want to thank Counselor Jackson for her assistance in this. The family's really appreciative to know that Mr. Hill, Ms. Jackson, and myself are all kind of looking at it. It's resolved-ish for now, but we're going to keep our eyes on it in the future. But I do support the motion to strike, and I would just want to thank you for your assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. I have
You're
no
welcome.
further business this evening, but I would like to call for a committee meeting at appropriate time next week.
Thank you. Councilor Blair?
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management from the docket of May 3rd, 2016. I move to approve the mayor's request to transfer $136.36 from account 12101-000-532012 Police Academy tuition to account 12101-000-578020 Police bills from previous years to cover the cost of the police department disputed Verizon bill.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Any comments?
We discussed it in committee last week.
Does anybody have any concerns or comments about this matter? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Delissio.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Parika?
Yes.
Vice President Denley?
Yes.
Ms. Agney?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes,
President Cook?
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
the motion passes.
thank you. I have no other business this evening. Would request a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Okay, is there anybody that needs a meeting outside of Councilor Cooper? Anybody have any guests coming in next week? No, okay. Moving on, there is no old business, there's no new business. Just before I call for adjournment, I just wanted to mention one thing, very quickly. You know, the next couple, probably the next 7-8 weeks are going to be very challenging. It's gonna be very, very difficult. You know, there's gonna be times I know that we're all going to be disagreeing. You know, we're all here to serve the city, that's why we got elected. And I think that, you know, one of the things I've always said, I haven't said it in a few months, I'm gonna repeat, you know, going forward, we are going to disagree, right? And the only thing that I would ask of everybody is that as we move forward, you know, that we show that we can disagree without being personally disagreeable. People in the city are going to be looking to their elected people, not only us, school committee, the mayor, you know, department heads and so forth, to conduct themselves as professionals as we go forward. You know, we're not going to be able to help solve the situation if we're letting personal disagreements get in the way. So the only thing I would ask is that, you know, we do our homework, we remain focused on the issues. You know, we keep focused on that as we move forward. Again, knowing that reasonable people can disagree on items. And that we try to work through this as best we can. As I said, I fear that when all is said and done, it's not gonna make everybody happy at all. But I think we need to step up and show that we are the leaders that people expected us to be when they voted for us, in terms of trying to focus on the issues, keep personal attacks out of it, and be able to just respond in a very positive way. Paying attention during the budget process, there will be some of these meetings, which I know we're going to be getting that scheduled pretty soon. It really behooves us to really make sure that we're there and working on them to try to as good examples of the whole city of how we can work through problems together. And I'm saying if there's any, if there's rumors that are going on that you hear, it might be helpful to just to try to get that information out so we can find the answers and get the truth out there on these matters as we go forward. So, anyways, so thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're
Thank
adjourned
you.
at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Jim Desta.